the governor announced in the last hour or so, we will commence phase 3 in the state of Oklahoma beginning June 1st. And I will sign an updated executive order later today that mirrors the state's guidelines in that regard. I think it's very important to understand that the state has identified that the state of Oklahoma meets the necessary benchmarks to move ahead with phase 3. Fortunately, as was the case with phase 2, in Tulsa we also meet those benchmarks. So this isn't a case of us being out of lockstep with the state. Again, the key for going into phase 3, as the state's defined it, is hospital capacity. I checked in just this morning with the leaders of each of our major hospital systems in the community. Each of them reassured me that their capacity in their hospitals remains ample, and that they've seen overall COVID hospitalizations remain relatively flat in their systems here locally. So that's very good news. And again, I can never thank the citizens of Tulsa enough for doing the hard work in the early going of this pandemic in our community that allowed our hospital systems to create the capacity and obtain the equipment that they need to handle this event the right way. And that's what's allowing us to go through and conclude phase 2 now and to move on to phase 3. Now, what does phase 3 look like in Tulsa? How does that change? Well, first, the state continues to provide what I think are really useful guidelines that any industry, and they've broken them down by industry and by event type, and you can identify those at okcommerce.gov. You can go on to the state's website at okcommerce.gov, and they have their overall guidelines for different facets of your life and also for different industries and different events that may be held. For us at the City of Tulsa, most of our employees have remained out in the field throughout this event. In my mind, that's one of the things that's so extraordinary about the public servants that we have that are working at the City of Tulsa. They've continued to be out in the field, fighting crime, responding to medical emergencies, keeping our streets fixed, fixing our water lines. And so many of them have continued to do the work that can't be done from home. You can't do any of that stuff in remote work. You have to be out in the field and doing that, and they've continued to do that. But we have about 1,000 employees at the City of Tulsa that have worked remotely throughout this event, and they will return to work on Monday, on June 1st, and we've put in systems in place at our various city facilities to make it safe for them to do so. It's important that as we move into phase 3 and the state's additional guidelines that they're putting in place, that everyone, as Dr. Dart said, needs to remain vigilant. We're continuing to do really a nationwide, city-by-city experiment in how we can get as close to life as we knew it pre-pandemic while doing so safely. And each community, you think about the term that the Founding Fathers used about creating laboratories of democracy. You absolutely see that in effect right now in states and cities all around our country, as different states and cities are at different stages of this reopening process. For us in Tulsa, it's so important that we continue to be smart about how we go about our lives while we try to re-engage so many of those aspects of our lives that we weren't able to participate in over the last couple of months. And the data continues to show that Tulsans are being smart. I mean, the fact that our overall trajectory rate, while it did increase over the last several weeks, as was to be expected, it wasn't a sharp increase, and our hospitalization rate remains relatively flat. That is due to Tulsans and people in the Tulsa metro area being smart about how they go about their lives and taking those precautions that protect themselves and their neighbors.